You've ever seen old bread? Yeah, sure, the package may be a rip, the bread is moldy, it'll probably give you a bunch of diseases, but the inside is still good. Half-Life is like that bread. Sure, its graphics may betray its masterpiece-like status. However, the gameplay, the storytelling, and its mechanics all held up incredibly well today. Even some AAA games from the modern era can't even hold up to them, as they go stale within a week. So today, I'm gonna look through Half-Life, what makes it so great, and let you know what my thoughts are on it when I'm done here. Half-Life's story is a bit basic, which is weird for a narrative-driven game, but overall, it works out incredibly well for it. Here's a quick plot summary if you somehow haven't heard of the story yet, and no, there's not gonna be a spoiler warning, you had 20 years to figure it out. You take control of Dr. Gordon Freeman, an MIT graduate and theoretical physicist, as a research associate at the Black Mesa Research Facility. As Gordon is not a very responsible fellow, he is running late. This causes the experiment that was set to today to be prepped even further, which leads to disastrous results. This experiment set off a terrible event known as the Resonance Cascade, which opened a portal to an alien world and allowed aliens to pass through into Earth. Gordon is forced to use his limited firearms training to make his way throughout the facility in order to search for help. A bit later on, Gordon learns of the military making their way to the base. However, they're not here to help. Instead, they have been given orders to silence anyone who happened to be associated with the project. Gordon then learns that the scientists at the Lambda complex will be able to fix this entire mess, and then Gordon embarks on a long journey throughout the base from one end to the other. Finally, when Gordon makes it to the Lambda complex, the scientists there explain what exactly is going on. Mysterious being known as the Nihilift is holding open portals to let the aliens travel through, and Gordon is the only one who can stop it. The scientist then opens up a portal, and Gordon travels through it. Gordon wakes up in the border world, Zen, and the very place that the sample that started this whole predicament came from, and continues to venture on despite the lack of materials. Finally, Gordon meets up with the Nihilift, kills it, and then is teleported away and given a job by the mysterious G-Man who has been monitoring our progress throughout the whole time. And that concludes Half-Life's story. It's pretty basic when you get down to it, but it fits the realistic motive of the story very well. However, some plot points as well as reaching the Lambda complex is put aside as it's kind of a side quest, leads me up to making me want to go outside and ask,
What street am I on?
However, Half-Life is a video game and narrative is only half of the story, so what mechanics does Half-Life bring to the table in order to make this truly a memorable experience? Half-Life is a shooter game, so let's talk about weapons. From SMGs to RPGs, Gordon really does carry quite an arsenal, quite a big one in fact, so I'll have to speed through this one. As time is short, I'll be describing these weapons as quickly as I can. Iconic, barely usable, headshots, workhorse, that's a magazine tube, not a second barrel. I can't lead my shots. Thank the heavens for a laser sight. Can't jump with it anymore, but still pretty good as a weapon. Overpowered. Pretty bad. Marines, please stop throwing these. Satchel charges, but worse. Trip mines, but better. And finally, snarks. And yep, those are all 9,463 weapons in Half-Life 1. Yeah, some of them are novelty, but most of them are useful and integral to the gameplay. The guns feel and sound great, but their performance is considered just fine. It's good, it's okay, but nothing spectacular. The actual combat is really bare bones. You shoot the enemy, you kill them, or the other way around. The amount of weapons makes things interesting, but as stated before, some of them are quite novelty and barely usable in actual fights. The reliance on hit scan means you just need to click well and aim good. Even if you're out of position, there's still a good chance you can win the fight, at least on the easier difficulties. However, Half-Life's main goal is not this shooting, so what else does it have up its sleeve in other departments? Half-Life's legacy is due to the way the story and mechanics are taught, all have the use of cutscenes, text boxes, stories explained outside of gameplay, as in manuals, anything else a 90s game would do to justify what your character is doing. Something that helps insert the player into the story is the way that all the environments are reasonable and realistic. Yeah, sure, the graphics may betray this, and Zen may be a funny green world, but 9 times out of 10, you can probably figure out what this place is supposed to be. With bit imagination, you can say, oh yeah, that's an office facility. Yeah, that's a storage complex. Oh yeah, that's funny alien land. These aspects were groundbreaking at the time. The storytelling, as well as the seamless transitions between levels, which all built realism, something most games in the 90s and before didn't have. Take a look at a game like Doom or Quake, where there's levels are very labyrinth and you have no idea what's going on. Half-Life is completely different, and as such, it stood the test of time for that. Not to say Doom isn't relevant or is a bad game nowadays, however, I feel that Half-Life's impact and its overall appeal is much greater than Doom's ever could be. However, not the whole game is perfect, so what garbage we have to dig through to get to the good stuff? Half-Life is a pretty good game. However, there are some faults, and quite a few in fact, that prevent it from reaching masterpiece-like status. Now, some may say that, oh, these are just part of the experience, you know? Well, I wouldn't mind them not being there. Yeah, the dodo bird got patched out a couple updates ago. I don't see people complaining about that. The first and most noticeable thing is probably the movement. Sure, most of the controls are pretty standard, however, Gordon's movement is quite slippery and can lead to some really imprecise actions. This leads up to Zen, arguably the worst part of the entire game. Not only is the environment bad, but the level is full of platforming puzzles which doesn't work combined with the clunky controls. This leads to a lot of moments like this, and even that. What? The combat here also sucks. While I prefer fighting the HECU, alien combat has been done well before, such as an office complex or Lambda Core, but here it's just bad. At the very least, the atmosphere is somewhat cool, and it's all worth it for the ending. And for me, Half-Life gets bread out of 9, not enough whole grain. Half-Life is one of those games that anyone who calls himself a PC gamer must play. Almost any story-driven shooter out there, and even some that aren't, took something from this masterpiece of a game. So yeah, you should play this game. Despite its dated visuals and slightly clunky controls, for what it's done to modern gaming, you probably owe it one. If it wasn't for this game, I wouldn't be making this video. What else did you expect me to say?